What up, though? It's the Creator back with another reaction video. This one is from another sports channel. It's literally called Another Sports Channel. And this video is called How a Car Rental Agent Saved an NFL Franchise. This is referring to Detroit Lions general manager Brad Holmes. We always say, in order for the team to succeed, it starts from the front office. And, recently, since the 2022 season, the second half of it, this team has been on the upswing because of this guy, Brad Holmes. All season moves that he's been making, his attitude that he has been contagious, spread out to the coach, and now you see it amongst the players. And look where we at, man. We're 9-1 right now, week 11, going on week 12. So let's talk about, or let's research how this guy came from, I guess, enterprise to being one of the top general managers in the league.
In just 3 years, Brad Holmes has helped turn a once hopeless Detroit Lions organization into perennial playoff contenders.
But without this guy right here, man, Brad Holmes.
When Holmes was hired as GM in 2021, the Lions were coming off years of struggles, lacking both identity and hope. But with strategic moves and a clear vision and an eye for underappreciated talent, Holmes transformed the roster into one of the NFL's most promising teams. But to understand how he was able to turn this franchise around, we're going to have to go back to where it all started. Born in Tampa, Florida, Brad Holmes grew up steeped in football. His dad, Melvin Holmes, was an offensive lineman for the Pittsburgh Steelers, so Brad was around the NFL grind from day one. He saw firsthand what it took, the discipline, the endless hours, and the physical and mental toughness. But none of this meant Brad was handed anything. Just because his dad played in the NFL didn't mean he'd get an easy ride. If he was going to make it, he had to carve his own path. And from the start, he knew that whatever he achieved in football, he'd earn it on his own terms. But those who knew Brad knew how passionate he was about the game. We're talking about the guy who, as a high schooler in Tampa, would dive into the NFL draft in the mid-90s. Back then, most people barely knew what a draft board was. But Brad? He was already tracking players, stats, and draft classes. His high school friend, Gabe Galdos, remembers how they go deep into football talk that no one else around them really understood. He was quoted saying back then it wasn't talked about like it is now, but he was all over it. He's a straight-up football guy. That passion followed Holmes to North Carolina A&T, where he played defensive tackle. And by his sophomore year, he was already winning championships. But then, during Christmas break in 1999, everything changed.
I'm at home visiting my parents down in Tampa and have a near fatal car accident. Just get sidelined and I'm in ICU for a week, and I'm very blessed and lucky to pull through that.
Holmes says he doesn't remember much after he got behind the wheel, but what he does remember is waking up in the hospital, facing the reality that he'd been in a coma, gone through multiple surgeries, and even suffered a stroke that left him partially paralyzed on his right side. What followed was pure grit. Holmes went through intense rehab, speech therapy, physical therapy, you name it, he did it.
I never forget that my college coach, Bill Hayes, visited me in the hospital. And, he sees one of his players in a ICU bed mangled up, and I'm sitting there telling him that I'm going to play again. And he's like, all right, yeah, right. I mean, like, you're lucky if you'll walk. And I'm like, no, I'm going to play again.
And incredibly, he did. By the time he returned to the field, Holmes was in the best shape of his life. He literally was the fastest and strongest he had ever been. He even later said he shocked himself with how far he had come. His teammates and coaches couldn't believe it. Holmes was back, earning a starting spot and leading the team as captain through an 8-3 season. Ironically enough, they would constantly tell Holmes that he had the heart of a lion. Now, though Brad Holmes did struggle to break into professional sports, he refused to give up.
When I got done playing, I knew I wanted to get in the NFL.
Is that him at 25?
Try to get into scouting, and I sent my resume to all the teams like everybody else does, and none of that fell through. So my mom was basically like, dude, you got to come back home. You just got to come home and just figure it out.
So he took a job at Enterprise, a rental car business, while tirelessly pursuing entry-level opportunities. His persistence paid off when he landed a media relations position with the Atlanta Hawks back in 2002.
So finally, an opportunity came about with the Atlanta Hawks. for a media relations trainee. And so I talked to my mom about it, and my mom was like, look, at least you'll be back in sports. And I was like, yeah, you're right.
Balancing 2 jobs, Holmes would clock in 40 hours a week for the Hawks and then head to the Atlanta airport to rent cars late in the night.
Because
Jordan got
I could only work 40 hours a week with the Atlanta Hawks. It was a media relations trainee position. But because of my experience with Enterprise allowed me to work part-time at the Atlanta airport.
Oh, wow.
So one of the greatest perks that the Atlanta Hawks gave me was a free MARTA card.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have the money to...
Yeah, you take the MARTA back and forth.
Need that MARTA card.
When I got off, then that's when I would go down to... I'd get off and I'd take the MARTA down to the Atlanta airport.
Gosh.
And then I go to the Atlanta airport and I would just
work a full day,
rent cars. So probably about 11 o'clock at night.
Despite the grueling schedule, he was undeterred. Holmes' boss with the Hawks recognized his drive and tried to connect him with NFL executives who would attend NBA All-Star games. This connection led Holmes to a lunch meeting with Dwayne Lewis, an exec with the then St. Louis Rams. Impressed by Holmes, Lewis offered him a PR internship, a foot in the NFL's door, prompting Holmes to literally pack a U-Haul with all his stuff and drive straight to St. Louis for the opportunity.
Hey.
Holmes' early days with the Rams were anything but glamorous. Starting in PR, his role was to support the team from behind the scenes. But he understood that success in any role depended on hard work, dedication, and patience. So, Holmes threw himself into his work, quickly building a reputation as someone who could handle anything thrown his way. Eventually, his talent and ambition caught the attention of the higher-ups in the Rams organization, and he transitioned into a role in scouting. Here, Holmes truly began to shine. His ability to evaluate players, paired with an analytical approach and an eye for talent, set him apart. He wasn't just looking at stats. Holmes looked for character, resilience, and the intangibles that could turn good players into great teammates. This attention to detail helped the Rams draft and develop players who would be instrumental in shaping the team's success, including stars like Aaron Donald, Todd Gurley, Cooper Kupp, and, Jared Goff. His keen eye for talent and consistent contributions were pivotal in building a competitive roster.
Everyone except the quarterback.
Holmes' success in the scouting department turned heads around the league, and his reputation as a sharp talent evaluator began to build. The foundation he helped lay would eventually bear fruit in the Rams' 2018 Super Bowl run, a testament to the quality and vision he brought to the organization. And in 2021, after more than a decade with the Rams, Holmes' expertise would eventually be rewarded.
The Detroit Lions have zeroed in on a new general manager. According to the Detroit Free Press, Los Angeles Rams Director of Scouting Brad Holmes will take over as GM. Holmes has reportedly agreed to a 5-year contract following a series of interviews with the team. He was also a finalist for the Atlanta Falcons GM job.
In terms of the purpose and the vision here, it's not complicated. It'll be through a collaborative approach. We will build a winning and inspired culture to serve the best football product to this great city of Detroit so we can compete for championships on a consistent basis.
The Detroit Lions, a team long known for its struggles, were looking for a GM who could revitalize the franchise. Holmes was brought in not only because of his scouting prowess, but because of his unique ability to identify character and drive, qualities essential for a team looking to rebuild. And his first major decision? Yeah, it was a bold one.
I mean, what more can you tell us about this breaking news situation between Detroit and Matt Stafford?
Yeah, so not many people were anticipating Matt Stafford being a Detroit Lion in 2021 and beyond. Listen, you got a new head coach who just got a 6-year deal, a first-time head coach at that. You have a general manager, a first-time GM, a guy who comes from the Rams, and so he knows how to wheel and deal and, kind of make some chicken salad, if you will. You have basically a new regime there, a new owner in Ford Hamp taking over for her mother, Martha Firestone Ford. And so as you start to see, there's just going to be a new regime, a fresh coat of paint, if you will, on the Detroit Lions, a team that, as we know, over the decades has struggled to really get over the hump.
With the current franchise quarterback, Matthew Stafford, now wanting to be a part of a rebuild, and requesting a trade.
Too bad, so
Holmes would
sad.
look to his former
But
team
hey,
as well as a
he
former
got a
quarterback
Lombardi out of
who
it.
he previously evaluated and knew very well.
Matthew Stafford is traded from Detroit to Los Angeles. In return, the Detroit Lions got Jared Goff.
What?
A first-round pick.
What?
Another first-round pick.
What?
And a third-round pick.
What?
Holmes continued to make strategic moves. The Lions' roster needed not just talent, but individuals who would buy into a long-term vision of resilience, teamwork, and competitiveness. With the focus on the draft, Holmes began adding players who fit this mold, like Penei Sewell, who brought energy and skill to Detroit's offense, as well as Amon-Ra St. Brown, Melifonwu, and other high-impact rookies who could lead by example.
We're fired up, man. Hey, listen, I'm going to turn you over to our owner, all right? Sheila Ford Hamp, all right? So just a minute here. All right, brother.
Wow! This is a very exciting draft room
That's outstanding. That's outstanding.
Man.
Holmes didn't just focus on high-profile positions either. He looked to build depth across the roster, understanding that a sustainable team must be balanced and adaptable. His careful selection process, prioritizing players with a strong character and work ethic, paid off as the Lions began to develop a team identity that aligned with Detroit's blue-collar spirit. And in 2022, he did it again.
With the second pick, the Detroit Lions select Aiden Hutchinson, defensive end, Michigan.
Oh, God
His
damn, we
choices
see
in
you training and trying to
2023,
get back for the
selecting
playoffs.
tight end Sam
Woo!
McCoy
This
and running back Jahmyr Gibbs faced some criticism.
And Sonic.
As some questioned the value of these early picks.
Now the question was, are you shocked the Lions selected Jahmyr Gibbs at number 12? 76% with the immediate reaction to the yes. Also, as a fan, you're like, oh, we're going to get this guy, this guy, this guy. It feels a little out of left field to think, oh, we had the 6th overall pick. Instead, we got some other picks and a running back. But
I see the potential there. It does seem kind of high, though.
I wouldn't run him in between the tackles.
No.
Frequently.
No.
But despite the scrutiny, Holmes remained committed to his vision, building a roster that reflected his belief in both talent and team culture. And that's right, you guessed it. It looks like he was right.
But without this guy right here, man, Brad Holmes.
See, with Brad Holmes, the Lions are no longer seen as perennial underdogs. He has transformed the franchise into one on the rise, with a roster full of young talent and a front office dedicated to sustainable success. His story, from humble beginnings to his leadership in Detroit, is a powerful example of how a single individual's resilience and vision can reshape an entire organization.
That's what we won the North Division last year. I loved it. Yeah. Man, that's an amazing story from Brad Holmes, man. His father was an OG in the Steelers. He was aiming to try to follow his footsteps, and he worked hard and developed his character to do so. On his way in the NCAT, gets into a car accident, making believe that he's not even going to be able to play again. He comes back even crazier than ever, but still not able to make it to the NFL. But gets some other jobs here and there, while also working part-time at Enterprise. Gets his foot in the door, first with the Hawks, and then in the NFL, being an intern, then got into scouting. So, man, like the scouting that he does, you see that he's trying to find people that reflect his attitude, that never say quit attitude, that don't let nothing stop you from nothing. That man survived a near fatal car accident and they say he was damn near paralyzed on his right side. And he came back even colder. That's a testament to just strength and will, and like that I'm going to make something out of this. You know, he couldn't make it in the NFL as a football player, but he made an impact somehow. What he did with the Rams and his history with the Rams, Todd Gurley, Aaron Donald, and get Jared Goff in there. They didn't make it to the Super Bowl with Jared Goff, but they won like Aaron Donald, and he got his ring before he retired with that trade with Matthew Stafford. But man, you see where we at, man. You see that the attitude of the general manager reflects the same of the coach. The coach, he spreads that energy onto the players, and the players we are just mopping the NFL with this never say die attitude. With this, we are not through. This ain't the same Lions anymore. And coming from a man from Tampa, Florida, that's highly commendable, man. So thank you, Brad Holmes, for being a key figure into the resurrection, revival, the rebirth, and the uprising of the Detroit Lions, because we just might be Super Bowl champions by February 9th, 2025. But that's all the time I got for this video. Like, comment, share, subscribe. I'm out this bitch like newborn puppies. Enjoy your week. Peace.